Hello everyone, it's Michael Lazar here, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we'll be discussing how to get better at doing ornaments in Byzantine chant. So, a question that a lot of my students have for me is how do I sound less Western? Or how do I sound less classical? Now, what does that mean? Well, a lot of people find that Byzantine music is not something that they grew up with, and a lot of the practices like ornamentation or differences in expression or interpretation, um, or even just the scale tuning, is not something they're used to hearing in Western music. And the question a lot of people have is how do I start incorporating those into my sound so I can sound a bit more authentic? So, um, one of the biggest things to look at is ornaments. So, ornaments are extra notes on top of the music that you add. And there's a couple misconceptions about ornaments. So a lot of people sing ornaments in a way that is kind of formulaic. They say, okay, here's an ornament. It means I do this, so I'm going to do that. Technically, yes, there are rules for ornaments. There are rules that are like, this ornament is typically going to sound like this. But it's not a hard and fast rule. It's like some, not guidelines, but guidance. Like, if you see a pentasyotoklasma, most of the time it's going to sound like, oh. If you see a andikenomath apli, oftentimes it's going to sound like, oh, something like that. And there are rules like that. Common uses for ornaments. So that's like the first thing. There are different ornaments that there are, and there are different ways to sing them, but that doesn't mean that we have to all sing them the same. So a lot of times people get stuck in singing every ornament the same way. And that's not really a good thing, because you have to remember, ornaments are there for the singer to use at their own artistic liberty. Someone in a Bach fugue might choose to insert a trill somewhere to bring either a different color or to bring a certain energy to a sound, even if it's not written in there. Or they might choose to do a mordant where it's not written. That doesn't mean that they have to put it every single place, or they don't have to use it once, or they have to pace it the same way. In Byzantine chant, it's that same thing. You don't have to sing every ornament the same way. You don't have to pace them all the same way. A lot of times you have to consider the text you're singing. What is the cadence of that text? Where are the important parts of the text? If I were to read it, how does the text sound? So that really does influence the weight of your ornaments and how you phrase things. So that's the first thing, realizing that there are rules to ornaments, but they're not so black and white. And you realize that when you learn them, knowing that you can vary them and make it sound, not all the same, really does open up a lot of room for expression and creative liberty. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you gotta learn the formulas for the ones that are, kind of the guidances. So there's a lot of them, but the way you get used to seeing how to use them is listen. So in jazz, there's this idea of transcription. So the way it works is that you hear a jazz solo and you try to replicate it on your instrument. And you don't just replicate it through the notes. You have to look at the phrasing, you have to look at the ornamentation, you have to look at the dynamics, articulation, even breathing, and look at how they set up the solo, and put it together. So if I am going to transcribe a jazz solo, I look at all the musical details and put them together. Byzantine chant, you can do something similar. Find a good soloist. I often say look at Greek or Arabic, because the ornaments you find there are going to be a little bit more elaborate, especially in Arabic, just because that the Arabic secular music tradition definitely influences the Byzantine tradition. So you'll find that the Oriental languages are going to be a little bit more ornamented. So find a recording, and even if you don't know the words, maybe just on ah or something, see if you can mimic what they're doing. And if they have the music with the recording, that's even better. See if you can mimic what they're doing, and see if you can try to slow it down and understand each part. So if you see someone do something like that, like something melismatic like that, see if you can slow it down and understand each individual component that they do in there. What do they do with their voice? how do they do it, and try to understand what character indicated that, and then go back and try to replicate it. That's the thing. Back in the day, the way you would learn these ornaments is you sit next to a protopsaltes or master chanter on the chanter stand, and you wait for them to sing something, and you see how they sing it, and then that's how you would do it. Now, in America, the problem is there's a chanter shortage, and there's also a increased supply of people that want to learn chant. So as a result, there's a lot of people who learn the notation without learning the actual style. So you might be one of those people yourself. So go and listen to recordings of people who know the style, and see how they interpret ornaments. That's the biggest thing, that transcription factor. So that would be the second big thing. And then the other thing is understand how the ornaments affect your phrasing. So phrasing in music is about how do you develop the music beyond the notes. How do you shape the music to match either the emotion that you want to explain with the music, or the color you want to explain, or even just the environment you want to create with the music. And the important thing is looking at ornaments as building your melodic lineup. So in Byzantine chant, it's not, the notes are not what you sing. And this is something that might seem a little bit complicated, but the notes are really just a skeleton of what you sing. The notes don't account for your vibrato, and they don't count for dynamics or your breathing or phrasing. You need to add that, and ornaments are like the meat to that. And then of course your vocal technique, or even just some of the vibrato stuff, is like the skin. And some people are just skin and bones, some people are just bones. But if you want a nice piece, you got to put all of it together. So understand that your ornaments should not be just used because you can use them. They have to make sense musically. So for example, if I'm going to sing just a simple Doxa Patri, like glory to the Father and to the Son, something like that, just a bit of extra notes in between. It has to make sense musically. If you do it in a non-musical way, you get something that sounds like glory to the Father and to the Son. It becomes very straight. Even if you sing with a good technique, the music doesn't feel as transformed. You can even sing with less ornaments, but with better phrasing, and it sounds even better. Like, glory to the Father and to the Son. Yeah, it does miss some of that extra element and layer to it, but if the phrasing's right, the ornaments do help and add it. So, the ornaments need to make sense musically and add to the phrasing and the line that you're building, rather than doing ornaments just because they're written there. So when you think of music in that way, the music becomes a whole new level of chant. It no longer is just like singing the notes. It then becomes as if the music, the text, comes alive through the music. So those are just a couple things to consider when trying to get better at doing ornaments. Don't worry. It takes time to learn them. I got lucky. I grew up around this music, and I have a father who learned from one of the best chanters in the Middle East. And of course, my father, I like his chanting a lot. So, I had that experience of listening to him growing up. But if you didn't have that experience, you gotta start listening. It's like learning a language. You can learn the alphabet and you can learn the grammar, but you have to start speaking that language. And oftentimes the best way to start speaking that language is listening to other people speak and repeating it after them. And that doesn't mean that you have to mimic every single thing that somebody does, forever. But when you're starting off, you should learn how do people speak that language and try to emulate the accent that they speak. Not the actual accent, but in this case, it'll be the musical language they speak through ornamentation. So, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, I would greatly appreciate if you liked and subscribed. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one, and have a great day.